In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you guys what are skills, what is the best way to ideate a skill, plan it, build it, and eventually deploy it into your daily workflows so you can start saving those hours, stopping doing all the tedious manual labor that you do on a weekly basis. So about it a little bit. Best way to look at a skill is as if you're looking at a workflow, a recipe, a protocol, a list of procedure where you have to do certain type of actions to get a specific result. Let's give some examples from real life. Making sushi requires the sushi man to create the rice in a proper way, so it's sticky and still tasty. And he needs to know the right way to hold the knife to cut the fillet of the fish so he can make the perfect sashimi piece. And also he needs to know how to roll the sushi properly so we get a nice roll eventually. Also, he needs to know how to cut the roll so the stuff in it is not going to spill out, so we can get that beautiful, beautiful sushi piece in the end. Also, when a swordsmith wants to create a Japanese sword, a katana, he needs to know which metals to take, infuse, melt, wield, and how much he has to tap on the hot iron. So eventually he's gonna get beautiful, strong, sharp katana. Okay? It's a process that takes maybe months. The potter, when he makes pottery, he uses clay, and he knows exactly how much water he needs to water his hands so that molding the clay is going to be easy, how fast he needs to spin the rolling table so that everything is going to be in shape properly, and also for how long he needs to put the pottery pieces in the oven to make it solidify and be ready to use. And also a marketer going on a campaign in social media needs to know to do the proper keyword research before, bring the right content, analyze it, cut it, slice it, dice it, and then repurpose it for all the other social media platforms that the company has. And he needs to know to upload it properly and that everything is written out by the brand book and brand tone of voice. So what's in common between all the examples I gave you? Well, the byproduct of every process, tasty sushi, clay pot, amazing katana sword, or marketing campaign, these byproducts were created by skilled people in their field. These people, they're skilled in what they do, and it took them hours and hours and hours learning, studying, experimenting, testing, failing, until they got the final results. These are all skills. It's right to assume that it took those people at least hours and hours and hours, weeks, months, maybe years, to get to the level of expertise that they are now. Here's a harsh truth. You don't need to go all these months and years of gaining experience. You can simply get a recipe, or you can ask an expert to teach you, because all those experts follow an expert kind of protocol, which is essentially a skill. It's a set of rules that you need to follow A, B, C, D, E, F, G, step by step to get the same deterministic product. Some of you guys might say, and you would say it correctly, like, Mark, what are you talking about? We're not going to use Claude Code for pottery, not for forging swords, or not for sushi, but you can use Claude Code to create skills for your marketing, to take all the workflows you've been doing manually all these years. For example, opening up Google Analytics, find the exact information, export the data, take the data, put it somewhere else, analyze it in Word, make a deck out of it, show it to your manager, give insights, and then push it into the pipeline of your marketing. This takes time and so many different apps and services and tools just to pull a small marketing campaign analytics and then act on it. So one of the cool things you can do regarding to skills is to take those expert level workflows that generate expert level products and just teach them as a how-to skill to Claude. So whenever you need this expert level product, you can just invoke the skill and voila, this is going to do it step by step, as just like the expert does, to get the expert level product. How cool is that? There are many good ways for YTS skills. I want to really give example for 3, just for you to expand your horizons. Let's say in your company there is a CMO, and he's very, very talented and skilled about doing marketing decks. So imagine that instead of all the junior marketers who's going to learn for their day-to-day job how he's making those decks, he can make a skill, and everybody in the company can use that skill to make stunning decks like him. It's going to save so much time and money for your company, and instead, it's going to let everyone produce high-level marketing sell decks. It's amazing, right? Also, another good reason to use is just to honestly save time. If you're doing workflows, same workflow for 3 to 4 times a week, it's a good idea to maybe turn it into a skill. For example, if you're a marketer and you occasionally pull data from all your analytics, social media analytics, and make it into a report, then you put it into an Excel, you crunch the numbers, you come with insight, you do it too manually all by yourself, stop. This is something that you can actually delegate to Claude Code as a skill. Make sure you have all the connections to all those softwares connected. And Claude with API or MCPs can pull in all the data by himself, crunch the numbers, and then give you what matters in minutes. Okay. And last but not least, sometimes having skills as a standalone operations is really good in complex projects. Sometimes you don't want to run the entire code or the entire machine just to produce one image, if you understand what I mean. So by now, you would probably agree with me that the skill is actually a workflow that contains information of what to do and exactly in what ways to get this same deterministic outcome over and over again. Now, after all these examples, you probably have a slight hint of what a skill actually is. And I think now it's time for us to go a little bit more deeper, understanding what is the right framework to build a skill. So once we're done learning that, I'm going to teach you in a step-by-step guide how to create a skill that takes your blog post or your YouTube video and repurposes it to all your other social media platforms and makes it tailor-made posts automatically. So as promised, this is my 8-step framework of how to build skills. It's something that I've developed within time. It's not rocket science, but it works for me, and I think it's simple enough to teach you guys how to use it. So the most important step in this workflow is the first one, is learning the flow. We need to learn every single step of the workflow end to end. We need to capture every input, every decision, and every output. The skill is only as good as the flow that we give it. And this is the difference between an expert level product to a generic product. So if we were to create a skill that takes a video from YouTube and a blog post from our website and repurpose it to other social media platforms and then upload it to Slack or Gmail for us to review, and then maybe fully upload it later by itself, the flow would be probably to feed Claude with the collateral, the ingestion phase, which is giving it the blog post to read or the YouTube video transcripts to read, Claude doing analysis, and then there's going to be a writing process for each social media and an image creation for each social media. And then after everything is basically made, there needs to be an act of pushing all this created collateral to Gmail for us to read or to Slack for us to just go and approve. And once we approve, it should basically take all this stuff and post it to social media. So this is the flow of this skill. And this is exactly what we need to make with Claude. This entire operation, this entire process based on the flow of what we just said. Step number 2 is a really important step in the process of creating skills, especially for skills that are dealing with content generation for social media in forms of text and imagery for posts. This is the part where we let Claude sample our identity, our brand voice, our brand book, and our rules. And this is what differentiates the products from being company oriented or to some generic content that nobody can actually relate to. Step number 3 is actually also a very important step, because in this step, we are actually granting Claude superpowers. We're letting Claude have access to all the apps that we would have access to if we were creating a workflow ourselves, which means if, for example, we're going to be talking about a skill that repurposes a blog post into a few social media posts, we're going to probably have Claude access a Gemini API to write posts and create images. We're probably going to need to give it access to Gmail or Slack, so it will be able to send us drafts, and maybe another access to a third-party app that does automatic uploads to social media using API. The more complex our skills are, the more we can use the connectors. When we will work the skill, I'll show you how to do that. So step number 4 and 5, regard to going actually into Claude Terminal and starting planning with Claude the entire skill. So this is the place where I'm going to prompt it and explain Claude what's the flow, what the skill is going to do, what's going to be the input, what's going to be the output. And then Claude is going to start having a pretty better idea of what's going to be the end result. Also, this is the place where Claude is going to prompt us with some questions. This step is so valuable because it helps Claude understand exactly what we mean. And this phase is very, very important. If it doesn't invoke questions, force it to invoke questions. Otherwise, there's not going to be any uniqueness in the output. It's going to be generic. You don't want that. And for step number 6 happens when you're done planning and it's time to deploy. Claude is going to tell you, okay, we're set. The skill is ideated properly. The architecture is set. We're ready to deploy. And once it deploys,
after it was in plan mode, it's just straight shooting. But imagine we would start building without plan mode. It's going to be patch on patch on a patch on a patch, and the code is going to be messy and there are going to be errors. So the best way to first create a skill is going into plan mode, plan it, and then ship it. And once we're done and we built the skill, there comes a very important part as well, which is the smoke test. We would want to see that the skill actually works. We're probably going to have a few mistakes here and there. We're going to take some time and we're going to run it a few times, and we're going to make it a little sharper every time until we get the final result, final deterministic result we can rely on time after time again. Because this skill, if already created, I'm going to be using it at least 3 to 5 times a week, and the output should be really good. So this is the part where I get to test the skill. And also, I usually like to add in each skill a set of self-quality assurance rules. So let's say the skill has finished its output. Before it's sending it to me and wasting my time, it's going to take a small few seconds to revise the output. And if it's not good enough by the standards that we put in the beginning, it's going to redo the test. It's going to redo the test, and it's going to redo the skill if it needs to be redone, which is really, really cool and saving time. I have to also say that if you do QAs in your own skills, make sure that you're going to prompt it to go to the last step where things got messed up. So it won't have to run the loop again and again and again and then eat a lot of tokens. This is also really important. And the last thing that we like about a skill is a delivered skill that works and that can help us scale. There are many types of skills. Some skills can be fully automatic. Some skills could prompt us here and there for directions and for us to answer questions and give it a general idea of stuff. And basically, you can also use skills in a third type of way, which is routines. So routines is a really cool feature that Anthropic shipped recently that allows the user to invoke a prompt that invokes a skill every X amount of time, every day, every Tuesday, every 3 p.m. And this is another layer of control where eventually skills allowing you to free yourself up more time instead of using native automation tools. So guys, let's continue with creating the skill. So I opened here Claude Terminal using Windows PowerShell. I'm going to quickly prompt it with skip permissions. This way, Claude is not going to ask you for permissions to continue every 5 minutes for every certain action, but you need to use it with care because it can do things and change things in the machine, in your machine, or going to certain places in the web and get injected with some devious prompt. I don't know, use it at your own risk. I prefer, and I really advise to use the Claude in this type of setting under a specific folder. So this way, if things get messed up, it's not gonna get out of that folder, okay? So I'm gonna stick with yes, and this is our Claude terminal. Now, if you remember, the first thing we're going to do regarding skill is create the flow. So I have created the flow for us. If you remember, our skill is a skill that takes a YouTube video or a blog post, and it's going to repurpose it to social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, based on our company tone of voice, based on our brand book, based on our rules. So the flow is as such. First is ingestion. We're going to read the blog. We're going to check the YouTube link, or it's going to be one or the other. Okay, and then we're going to feed it to Claude. And then the second step is to analyze the content and get recommendations. Like Claude is supposed to analyze the content and give us recommendations to what type of post, what type of topic. I think it's a nice flow, right? Because when we create topic, we usually decide which way to take it. Also, I'm going to let Claude ask me which kind of topic is best and what is the goal of the campaign. Because if a campaign has different goals, then they require different posts. If the campaign is to sell, we're going to have different CTAs. If the campaign is brand awareness, we're going to have different CTAs. So this is something to keep in mind. The next thing is to connect Claude with Gemini. Connecting Claude with Gemini API using Google AI Studio is gonna give our Claude access to Gemini 3.0 text generator and image generator. Of course, also it can create videos with VO3 for YouTube videos. That could be nice if we prompt it right, but it's kind of costly. A generation of a VO3 video can cost up to between $5 to $25. So before you create such videos, please make sure you're doing it properly and not just spending money off your APIs. Once we're set, we can always remember it doesn't have to be Gemini. It can be other AI models. It could be a connection to an app like Canva, and the API is gonna edit the content in Canva itself. There are many ways to do it, but I For this demonstration, I prefer working with Gemini. And I think also it's because it's the easiest and it's already in the terminal. Don't forget, guys, when you connect APIs from places such as Gemini, make sure you don't put the API key straight into the terminal. It's really, really dangerous. The best way to do it is to do it through an env file that you allow Claude to read whenever needed. And this is the best practice to do this. And eventually, once we connect to Gemini and we make the test run of the social media posts, we want it basically to be in our standards. So we need to make sure that we prompt it properly all the way through. It's really, really important to deal with the ideation of the post and what we expect of it at this stage, because this is the place where we add all the skill expertise. So if we want Gemini model to write in a certain way and create the images in a certain way that are aligned to our brand, this is a place that we want to already want to start planning. And eventually, once we're done, we would like to see a draft of the post that it generated. So I would like it first to show it to me in the folder. I know earlier I said that it should send me a Gmail, but you know what? I want to be simple. I want it to show it to me in the folder. If it is okay with me, I will tell it to finalize and continue uploading to the next place, or just finalize the images for me as they are in my folder. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to take this flow and I'm going to go to Claude and I'm going to tell it all about our skill. And then we're going to go into plan mode. But before we go to plan mode, if you remember, there are two more things we need to do. We need to give Claude all our brand information, such as brand book, tone of voice, memories if they have, and rules. And then we need to make sure that Claude is connected to all the right tools that need to be connected to.
So as you can see here, this is our Claude terminal. I have prepared from earlier our brand book files, our memory files, rules of do and don'ts, and tone of voice of the company, anti-AI words that are basically a set of negative keywords I don't want Claude to use. So all I have to do is take these and drop them straight into the terminal and let Claude know what they are. I already did it earlier, so it's pointless for me to do it now, but this is basically how you do it. And also, now is the time for you to connect to any other connectors that you might do. I will show you how to do it from Claude Desktop. So you need to open it and you go down here and then you go to settings. After settings, you will find the connectors. They're trying to migrate this place. So here you have to press customize. And now you're going to see a list of all the connectors that I'm connected to, okay, which are all this, but also we can connect to any more connectors over here. Reminder for you guys, each connector has its own permissions that give a certain way for Claude to access or not access a certain type of actions. For example, delete all the files, which is something very sensitive. And you have to decide if you want to grant that ability or not. When you browse connectors here, it's going to show you a list of many connectors that are native to Claude. If your skill needs one, this is the place to find them. If there are apps that are not included in here, you can maybe try them via API or the MCP servers directly, which is cool. But no, right now, I am very well accommodated with these tools. Also, I told you about Gemini API. I'm using Gemini API I'll show you, through Google AI Studio. Okay. You have to go over here. Let me just change the account. And this is your Google AI. This is your Google AI API key section. This is where you can create your own API key and paste it into an env file. And this will basically allow your Claude access to Gemini models, which means create text, well-polished text, create really good images, etc., etc. So if we're thinking about it, we basically did step one. We learned the flow. Okay, we learned the flow. We provided the brand files and the rules, and we connected the apps. Now it's time for us to go to Claude and tell him what's up. I'm going to go to Claude. I'm going to introduce to him that we're going to build the skill, and I'm going to ask it to go to plan mode. And then we're going to start the discussion about finalizing this skill. So let's go and do it together. So I went to Claude and I started prompting. I want you to help me create a skill that will repurpose my blog post to 2 or 3 social media posts for different platforms. I forgot to add for different platforms. Let's give it some specifics. Let's say LinkedIn, let's say Facebook, and let's say Instagram, whatever. This is the flow. I pasted it the flow that we saw earlier. And I'm also telling him to help me audit the flow and also suggest changes. Maybe
here's a better way for us to do the flow. Maybe it's more efficient. Sometimes Claude can have really good ideas, but it's nice to have. If it's bad idea, we don't have to use it. I'm also telling him that the image and the text creation will be with Gemini models based on company brand book and tone of voice. Let's go into plan mode and plan a skill together until we deploy and test it. And then I press enter. And now we wait for it to think about what we wrote, and we're gonna wait for it to reply us back. So when we'll fast forward to the part where Claude is asking a question. So he's asking me a question right now: where is the blog post is going to be supplied to? And it's a fair question, because some systems you feed the blog post to them. In some places, the machines just goes and finds its own blog post. I'm going to give it a local HTML file and the YouTube URL. I'm going to also give it a YouTube URL. For the blog post, I have my company website blog post, which is right here. Okay, I'm just going to give it the link. Let's see, ask more questions. Instead, your flow says 2 or 3 social media posts for a different platform. Which exactly should the demo produce per run? I wanted one post per platform, multiple 3 platforms. Okay, it's just a test. We can ask for more. We can ask for much more. We can ask for a few variants per platform. I'm good with the choice number 2. Remember, it's also a demonstration, so we're going to go with 1. For Instagram specifically, what should the visual be? So I'm going to go with a single image. We're not going to do carousel here. A single image is good. And now we submit answers. I'm also going to paste for this run. This is the page with the blog post. Okay, he's asking me more questions. Step 2 of your flow says analyze content and recommendation in the site topic and campaign goals. What level of human input do you want here? This is important, because if we give it a lot of human input, the skill gets less automatic, because we need to come here and babysit it and answer the questions here and there. If we take it fully autonomous, it just goes straight ahead, and we're not going to have much say in it. I'm going to go for the sake of demonstration on number 1, because it still gives us a little bit of control. It's going to ask 2 questions gate, and it's going to go. So also step number 6 said upload to social media. Okay, here it's asking how we're going to upload it to social media. For now, there are several apps that you can connect to with API that connect to all the social media platforms. And then when you're done with each post, Claude directly sends it to those apps, and those apps can directly post it to social media. This is crazy. Even though I don't recommend to do it with Instagram or LinkedIn. These platforms don't like automations. They can ban your account for it. So be careful. So let's go with number 4 here. When we're going to say, we will add the software in the future. So here it's asking about what image model I want to use. I'm going to take with Gemini 3 Pro. It's the best image generator right now, and I can use. Let's go with it and submit the answers. Just so you know, for image generation, you don't only have to rely on Gemini. You can also have Imagen. And if you want some cool editing tools, you can use Pillow, you can use FFmpeg and Canva MCP. You don't have to be only confined with Gemini. So from here on, Claude is just going to ask me questions until he understands the skill itself, and then he's going to propose me 2 or 3 approaches, which I'll have to choose and pick. And it's going to be based on my preferences. I'm going to just run and let Claude guide me with the skill until we can reach the point where we can test it. By this time, you already know what a skill is and how to create it. You just need to go until Claude says, the skill is ready, let's test it. So let's just fast forward here, okay? So guys, we reached the point where we have covered all 14 sections that Claude has left before us and answered all its questions. So basically, he's telling us that he is ready for us to tell him and give him the signal to start building. So we're just going to say, yes, start building and see what happens. Okay, guys, this is it. It finally finished baking the skill. So I'm just going to invoke the skill from scratch. And the way to invoke a skill is to write slash in the name of the skill. So the name of the skill is, it calls itself blog to social repurpose. Blog, here it is. Now we just ran the skill. And let's see what's happening. It's running the skill. It says it needs the blog file path so it can start running. So it's giving me some options. I'm going to take, let's rerun just to test it. And and saying if it should use my headshot. I don't know. Let's try, maybe. Let's use a headshot. Let it work. So we can see that the skill finished. And what I like to do is when the skill saves the products in a folder, I like to ask it to open the folder for me or show it for me in an HTML file. So I'm going to ask it, show me the products in an HTML file. Using HTML files is a nice way for Claude to show us designs and images. It's a really cool way to work with images now. I really like using it. See what it's going to bring up. I'm really excited, guys. So this would be the skills products. Mind you, this is the first iteration. And to be honest, it's not good enough. But yet again, this is the first iteration. Sometimes we're going to have to do a couple of iterations just to make the skill do exactly what we want. Now, looking at it for the first time really tells me that it did use my brand in a book, but it was a little misguided. And I told it to use the head, but the direction is the right direction. There need to be a little bit tweaks here and there. Also in the writing. I see that the writing is good, punchy, the way I like it. But there are sometimes it's not this or that AI type of speech. So this is a good opportunity to update the tone of voice for the company files to edit into Claude for it to fix it. And I do see that it's adapted the content per social media platform, which is cool. And now we're just going to dive in and iterate about it and make it much better. So I've did a few more iterations with the skill on its outputs for social media. Now, mind you, I told you earlier that I like my files when they're images. I like it to be presented in an HTML file because things look sharp. And I asked it to open the final version of the file showing me all my social post collateral, all the posts and their text and their images. So let's see what we got. Okay, so much better. A nice graphic according to my brand book looks so much better. The text is much better now too. It eliminated some more of a little bit of AI blueprints, and this is all the variations that I asked the skill to do. Wow, just look at that, and look at this. It's really appealing. It's aesthetic. It's catching the eye. Some more cool variations. Beautiful. This is something I'll be happy with. Now it did segment it to LinkedIn. It's giving me also the dimensions. It's segmented to Facebook. Different kind of text for Facebook. The images are adherent to Facebook's best dimension practices. Also Instagram, square dimensions, looking really, really sharp, really, really good. And I like it. Now, as you can see, this skill took a few iterations to make the visuals look like this, but also pay attention that the things we had in the beginning are not so far from what we got now. It means that we need to just add a little bit more tweaks. Now, these are things that will happen when you create skill. The output is not going to be exactly what you want in the beginning. Also, it's really important to plan it right. But once you get it, you're going to keep continuing the same results over and over again. So every time I'm going to give this skill a new post, I'm going to get all these nice variations adherent to my brand book. And all I need to do is like add a scheduler. So for every time a blog post comes into the website, this skill is triggered. Now, this can happen with Claude skill routines. It's in Claude Code, where you invoke a routine like every Tuesday. Let's say every Monday you upload your blog post. So on every Tuesday, a routine is going to fire up in Claude and invoke the skill. So it means every Tuesday, you're going to have a prepared social media posts for all your platform at the same time, which is really, really cool.
Mind you guys that this skill is a simple skill for demonstration, but if I'll be honest, I wouldn't be doing this skill the way it is for, let's say, longer runs.
And I'll tell you why. This skill contains 2 to 3 different modules.
There is the module that reads and analyzes the post, and there is a module that writes the posts and text, and the third module is the module that creates the graphics. Each one of these, if we want to work for longer periods of time and make it scale, should be a different skill because we need special expertise in analyzing and ideating. We need to edit a few more layers. Also, when we create the text, we also want to make sure it writes the same way, and it also keeps the brand tone, and it also does anti-AI wording, and this best be a skill on its own. Also, the module that creates images should be a skill of its own because the more layers we add into it and the more iterations we put into it, it makes the skill run too many tokens, and the skill structure becomes too heavy, if you know what I mean. There's too much stuff in that skill itself, so much code. which sometimes be unnecessary. And it's best to have this part of the skill as a different module on its own, having inside of it all the correct data to create beautiful images for social media platform based on the text that we fed it from the earlier skill that does only the writing. Does it make sense? We need to give each skill a special expertise, and then we can use an orchestrator skill that knows the flow of how to execute the entire process. And then the orchestrator just invokes each skill on the right time by the flow of your process. Hope it makes sense. So sum it up, instead of having one bombastic, robust skill, it's best to separate it in a few different specializing skills. And this way, things are going to go smoother and code is going to be healthier. And if something is not working right, you know exactly which part you need to work on to have it sustainable for longer periods of time. And it will actually help you. When all the code is baked into one skill, every fix and every change might cause some harm or might make things spend much more tokens. And you can just revert that by working correctly. Also really important to know that this way, your operating system of skills looks like a plug and play. You can always change the skill that does the images with another skill that does images. And the part that writes the posts, you can always change it to a different type of agent that uses a different kind of language, for example, a different kind of tone. You must understand that the skill is like the right skeleton, the right flow. And you can always plug and play different parts that change the output into the way that you would like. And that's it for skills for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the content and you like the value, please help me reach other people by pressing subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.